This week we're talking about shin splints as it relates to the tibialis posterior, but first, our disclaimer. Mike Matthews, physical therapist, here with the PT411. Thanks so much for joining me. If you already haven't done so, make sure you follow, like, subscribe, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Also, make sure you check out thept411.com. So like I said, we're talking about shin splints, and shin splints is pretty much just a specific form of tendonitis down in our lower leg. We've talked about tendonitis in the past. As a quick refresher of tendonitis, it's when a tendon gets injured from being overloaded. If we remember what a tendon is, all of these individual muscle fibers here have little sheaths around them, little bits of soft tissue that surround each of them, and all those come together and keep going when the muscle belly ends, and all that forms a tendon. Now, typically speaking, we'll see something like this type of setup. You have a long muscle belly right here. You have your tendon coming off each end here. Whenever that muscle contracts in this way, it ends up moving one or both of the bones closer to each other. Now, it's a little bit different with the lower leg here. With the lower leg, it's not just going to be simply up here and down here with the tendon. The tendon is a lot more broad. It comes off fewer muscle fibers. So you're gonna see that entire tendon coming up and down, and to the most part, it'll be up there. Some of these come together and start to attach up a little bit higher here. Same thing on this other side. You have some that are attached down here, and a lot of these that come together that kind of attach in that area that goes there, but the same end result as this muscle right here contracts, all these little individual muscles contract here. What's going to happen is one or both of the bones are going to close in, close down this angle right here. But the same thing happens here. The tendon can get overloaded, and it'll either get overloaded by a single instance of a very high amount of volume or a lower volume at a repetitive rate, and over time this starts to fail, gets injured, and causes that tendonitis. And it's the same treatment principle regardless of if we're working on this side over here with the traditional set or down here with our shin splints. We always have to start off when we get this injury. We got to let inflammation take its run first. We allow that initial healing stage to start off there, and then after a few days, we got to start loading it. And we have to load it within a Goldilocks zone. There's a specific Goldilocks zone in there where we have to load it up. If we do too little, we're just wasting our time. If we do a little too much, we're going to keep it injured. But there's a zone right in the middle there, and we have to listen to our symptoms to tell us if we're right in that zone or not. And the general rule of thumb is when we're loading it, it needs to be uncomfortable. It needs to be painful. It doesn't need to be excruciating, but it needs to be enough to let us know that we're doing something with it. We have to listen to our symptoms afterwards as well. We got to make sure that it lingers a little bit once we stop the activity, but it can't linger too long. We want it to linger about 3 to 5 minutes. If it lingers longer than 5 minutes, we're doing a little too much, and the next time we do the exercise, we need to back off a little bit. But on the other side of things, if we're producing no pain, or if the pain is very little and it doesn't linger on, we're definitely not doing enough, and the next time we do our exercise, we need to load it up a little bit more. So what we're going to do in this video is start off very light on how to load it, and we're going to slowly progress it going forward. The way to look at this is we want to start at that bottom level and we adjust accordingly. With some people, the injury might not be that bad and we can progress it pretty quickly to find our Goldilocks zone. Other people, we're going to have to start right at the beginning and very slowly creep it up, very slowly, try to increase that progress. And again, we're looking at our symptoms. So when we're going through this video, you slowly go up to find that Goldilocks zone and stick with it, and you wait until those symptoms start to go down, that pain is less and less, it stops lingering, and then we can progress it along a little bit at a time until we get to the point that it's not painful with our normal activities. But before we get started with that, I want to go over one thing real quick. There's a lot of research that really does suggest that having nice, strong, and stable hips actually directly affect how often that we get shin splints. If they're nice and strong and stable, they're normally not going to happen as often. If they're really weak, they're unstable, we're going to put a lot more force, a lot more stress throughout these muscles in our legs. So this week we're taking a look at the tibialis posterior down here, and that muscle is going to be a little bit more behind the tibia here, running back behind the ankle here. So when that muscle contracts, it's going to do the opposite of what the tibialis anterior does. Instead of flexing up and in, it's going to flex down. So we got to start our load the same way we did the first time around, by stretching it out. Big mistake that people make with this one is we start to stretch this out with our knee straight, trying to stretch out that calf. Now our gastroc muscle, our big calf muscle here, crosses over both the knee and the ankle. We got to take that out of the equation. So we actually have to bend the knee for this one. That way we can stretch out that muscle there. We're going to start by holding on. I'll just hold on with one hand so you can see what I'm doing. You're pulling straight back this way. Our holds here are going to be 30 seconds, 3 times a day. And we got to mind that Goldilocks zone when it's time to progress that along. First thing we'll do, we'll get our handy dandy band here. Get that around here. Make sure I'm staying in frame. We start off with a decent amount of resistance here, and we're pressing straight down there. The good thing about the band is, if we're overloading it too much, Goldilocks zone rules is telling us that we're doing a little too much. We can give it a little slack there, make it a little easier. If it's pretty easy, but we're not ready to put our feet on the ground and do it this weight bearing, we can pick up more slack and work it there as well. It's going to be different from the stretches here. This one, we want to aim for 30 repetitions, 3 times a day. So let's say we get past this with the band. Now we got to get ourselves on our feet. So coming up on our feet, we're just going to do a simple toe raise with both feet first here. Going up and down with both sides, minding that Goldilocks zone again, listening to our symptoms. When it's time to progress from there, we're going onto that one foot there. I'm holding onto my chin-up bar up above me right here, just to hold a little bit of balance, so I'm not having to focus on that. Instead, I can just focus on just contracting, doing those heel raises, going up and down there. Same thing, 30 times, 3 times a day. Now sometimes this muscle can be a little sometimes this muscle can be a little tricky to hit. Sometimes we need to get a step that we can go off of here. So we'll grab our step here, step on that, and my foot is off the edge here. As I lower down past parallel, I'm actually rotating my entire body inward towards that other foot. And as I come up, I'm rotating outward the other way, so that we get a little bit of that inversion, eversion movement, and with it, to further isolate that muscle. Same thing, looking for that Goldilocks zone. Time to progress from there. Gonna get this step out of our way. We're just gonna get on our feet. We're gonna do some toe walking. Toe walking up to 2 to 3 minutes. Very quickly we can progress from there. We're gonna do a jog. I'm staying on my feet right here. We can jog in place, jog forward and backwards, just to load that up further. Now to progress that along further, we got to look at our normal daily activities. If we have a job that's a little bit more demanding on our feet more often, or if we're in athletics, playing sports athletes here, we got to make sure that we keep loading this further. Some people, this is about the most strenuous, is it's going to get on those muscles, so that's about where we stop, and then we're back to our normal activities. But sometimes we need to progress this a little bit further. So we want to start to actually mimic our day, pick our activities that actually load this up, work on those starting off at about 25%. If that's easy and we're minding our Goldilocks rules again, that's easy. We progress it along, we listen to those symptoms, we can go to 50%, eventually 75%, and then to 100% and back into full participation. Now we have several videos left for our ankle and foot series, so make sure you guys stay tuned for that. Again, I'm Dr. Mike Matthews with the PT411. Thanks for joining me.